I don't have the keys to the locks. From the moment that it was sealed inside there, I've not been allowed to go anywhere near this. Now, they did hand out the Hartford Current around different areas around here in the hotel. We have extra payments here at the very end if you want to get those. So, do you want me to direct this, or do you want to direct this? All right, I will try. So, can we get this down? And I'm not sure if we're supposed to bring it down, because again, I have nothing to do with this, and I would like the box to be placed right here. On the day that we signed it, on June the 9th, on the day that we sealed this, I had people sign every single envelope, and it's going to be a little bit of an arduous process to go backwards from that. But I want to make sure that everything is fair and above board, and you see every single step for this. So I'm just going to watch as they unhook. As you can see that there's 4 points of that. I also want you to watch these guys. I don't know these guys, but keep an eye on them as well. Chris, can you hold this for me, please? I want to remove my jacket and roll up my sleeves as well. And there we go. And as they bring it down, if I can get security to take it and just put it on the table. Felix, who has the keys to this? You have the keys?
Mike Whitty.
Mike Whitty has the keys.
Very ethical man.
A very ethical man, Felix says. So, very trustworthy. Can I get you to just bring that over and put it right here with the lock facing outwards, please? The lock facing outwards. Thank you. Mike, if I can, would you come right over here, please? And you have the keys. I want you to open those locks. And then just open the latches as you do that as well. And for the first time, if you will, so the camera can see it, would you open that box for the first time it's sealed? Thank you. Mike, would you take this and just lift it up like that, please? If you'll take it on over there to Paul, I think you signed that as well, is that correct? You see your signature on there? Right there. All right, I think, I'm pretty sure Mike signed it. Do you see your signature? Yep. And would you pass it on down to Felix? Felix, do you see your signature? Yep. And you see the other signatures, you probably recognize some of those that are on there as well. Yep. And if you would give it to Councilman Gaines, do you see your signature on there? You know? Can I get the supernaturalists to all stand right over there just for a second? And I would like you to come over here if you could. And I'm going to take this, and what I want you to do, if you would, describe what happened.
Today I signed the envelope. Okay, let me see. Okay, I know it's June 9th. Okay, so we came up to the podium, and the view of everyone, we were asked to sign the envelope wherever we wanted to, and that's what we did.
Would you step around here, please, to my right-hand side? Now, can you certify that your signature is on there? Is that correct? It's right. It's actually right over the seal. So I'm going to unlock that. And there's another envelope inside of here, which if you take a look, there's a signature right across there. Is that your signature? That's your signature right across there, right across the seal again. Just opening it, I want you to watch. There's your signature right there. You keep that for a souvenir, all right? And inside here, there's another envelope. Do you recognize this? This is the one that was sealed by, I believe it was Susie from the Hartford Current, correct? Yep. I want you to watch very carefully as I just tear off the very end of this and try not to tear off what's on the inside. Watch my hands very carefully. All right. If you'll take that and just reach inside there, and I want you to take out the piece of paper that's inside there. Can you get to it? All right. I don't want to touch that at all. What I'd like you to do is just to open it up just a little bit. Now, Susie couldn't make it here. Unfortunately, she had a slight emergency. She could not make it. We were over here because I had them, unlike any other mentalist, I had them sign the prediction itself. You see Susie's signature right there? You do. Would you open that up for me, please, the prediction? Now, at the very top, it says Hartford Current. Is that correct? Yes? Below that, there's a line right there. Who has the Hartford Current? You do. And the big headline right there is no word yet on Hartford workforce. Is that correct? On the very front there, do you see that? The next line is executives won't make predictions on what effect deal will have on 6,100 jobs in the state. 6,100 jobs. Is that right?
That's correct.
Would you read off that first line right there?
It says no word / workforce 6,100 jobs.
Wait. To the very left-hand side, would you read off what it says right there?
Bill Cosby gave, what is that,
Quaaludes. Bill Cosby gave women drugs, and it turns out it was Quaaludes. Quaaludes is just not on the headline. Down below that, what does it say?
It says assault bike trap.
Would you open that paper, please? And below Bill Cosby, it says something about right here, cops man work new bicycle trail, and it's about an assault. Right there, yes? There's also a little picture right there. Can you make out what this picture is supposed to be?
It's like a ship, a bridge, and a baby.
A ship?
Oh my God! Oh my
A
God!
bridge, a boat that's looking for this baby right here. Let's move on. So the Boston Herald. You had the Boston. Open that up, please. Would you read off what I wrote might be the headlines for the Boston Herald?
Boston Herald, murder 118.
Murder in room 118. The Bulletin. Headline is dilapidated buildings hard to keep secure. Would you read off what I put on that?
It says old building security.
Old building security. Not exact, but basically the same thing.
Wow.
And Felix.
I gotta get my glasses.
I want you just to hold this, please, and take a look at the very bottom where it says USA Today. Do you see that? I do, USA Today. And you have the USA Today, open it up all the way. And I'd like you all to just check, make sure those are today's dates as you do that. What did I draw right there? Looks like an upside down car. And what number is on it? 3?
Wow.
What else did it say? Grease chicken. And we have right here, chicken. Grease plays a game of chicken. And what do you see right here? It looks like a number of boxes. Unbelievable. And finally, at the very bottom, Gen X and Boomers. And right down at the bottom, Spencer, right down here, what does it say? Gen X Boomers. Thanks very much.
Hi, Banachek here. Now, I've been performing for almost, 40 years now? Long time. Makes me feel really, really old. And I have to tell you, I am asked time and time again, what's the best way to get publicity? What's the best way to get people to your shows? What's the easiest way to get publicity? I mean, you could do a thing where you sleep for 4 or 5 days in front of a store, but that's taking up all your time to generate other publicity as well, and do radio interviews and TV interviews. The best way to get publicity is the simplest. It's something that goes out there, that's sitting there just working itself for you, generating publicity for you. It allows you to go on radio shows, TV shows, get you a chance to talk about those things, so you're able to get other media there as well. This will get seats in the House. It will get you full-page coverage. And it's not only going to get you coverage in a newspaper one time. If you do it right, it should get you a full-page coverage 2 times in the same newspaper. Sometimes one a month ahead of time. Sometimes the second one will actually come out a day before your show, or even after your show when you left town. And that's absolutely fine, because you are generating clippings to put in your scrapbook to sell to the next show or the next city. Now, I'm going to teach you a couple of methods for this. And it's a headline prediction. I've done all kinds of headline predictions through the years. I know which ones work, which ones don't. In fact, they all work so long as you're very careful, but you certainly don't want to get caught with them. So I'm going to teach you some that are a little bit more complicated. I'll teach you some that are a little simple. There's going to be 4 different ones. I'm going to teach you how to make a couple of gimmicks. Now, there is some work when you go ahead and do a headline prediction, and especially this first one that I'm going to show you. It's going to be a little complicated on the setup in the very beginning, but don't worry, everything is in the PDF. If you get lost at any point, go through that PDF. You have pictures, you have diagrams. It'll break every little subtlety down for you. So if you don't understand something that I'm saying to you, you don't quite get it, take a look at the PDF. The PDF is indeed extremely valuable. I've gone through it, and it's given me time to go through it and make sure that you get every aspect of this so you can fully understand it. So the first one I call the Banachek Magnificent headline. That should sort of give something away to you. It uses magnets. There's some setup with it, and it's based upon a lot of different principles that people have had out there. And I've used this one for about 4 different newspaper headlines, and it's quickly becoming my favorite. So this one's going to be a little bit more challenging, a little more difficult. There's some work that you have to put in ahead of time. Few things that you're going to need is you're going to need 2 FedEx envelopes, or any type of envelopes will do. I like these because they're sturdy, they're hard. People know what FedEx envelopes are. And at the show, they may think that you actually mailed them in, which you probably did not, but then again, you may have. These look really good when they're on display. They know they're sealed. They know what FedEx envelopes are. You need a larger one, you need a smaller one. You're also going to need 2 envelopes, and you're going to make these so they're absolutely identical. What you're going to do is you're going to put on the one side, you're going to put your initials right over where the flap is, and you're going to put the date of when you're actually going to open it down at the very bottom there. You can also put anything you want on the front. It could be the date that you're sealing it and the date that you're opening. It makes no difference. I like to add a few little subtleties. I want these envelopes to look identical, because what's going to happen, as with all headline predictions, is you're going to end up switching the envelopes out. So I'll put a little bend in one, and I'll put a bend in the other one as well. It's a very little subtle thing. Maybe I put a little smudge down at the bottom as well, and I'll put a smudge on the other. Whatever you do to one envelope, you have to do to the other envelope. Now, inside of the one envelope, the one that you're going to switch in for, what you're going to do is you're going to put a magnet. Now, I've sealed this magnet, and I put a piece of paper over the inside of it so you can't see the magnet inside there. But I've purposely went ahead and darkened it so you can see where the magnet is. Now, these are neodynamic magnets, and it's going to attract to another magnet. That other magnet you're going to place in the smaller FedEx envelope. What I've done with this FedEx envelope right here is you can actually see inside there. I put the metallic tape in there so you can actually see it. And I put a piece of magnetic tape in there. I usually use magnetic tape, but over that I'll put a piece of gray tape so it hides it. But I put the magnetic tape in there because I don't want that magnet to rip out. It's the same reason why in the other envelope that I actually put the piece of paper in there to hold it. Whoops, wrong one. It's the same reason I put the piece of white tape inside there, is to hold the magnet inside so that it doesn't rip out. And that just goes right in the center. Check your magnetic poles, because you want to make sure that the envelopes attract to each other. They act like that they attract to each other, and you want this side face up. Make sure you remember which side is which, because if you do it on the other side, it doesn't attract. You want it definitely to be on that side right there. What I do with a smaller FedEx envelope is right where that magnet is, I put a little dot right there. Don't need that on here because I can actually feel it, and it's not going to make any difference, because later on I'm going to put a dot in the newspaper, but I'm getting ahead of myself right here. So you've got these 2 identical envelopes all ready to go, ready to switch out. You got your 2 FedEx envelopes. Now, the smaller envelope, there's one other thing that you have to do to it as well. What I like to do is I like to take a piece of paper with a logo or my name on it or something like that, and make sure that it has a border. Then what you do is you take a knife, and you cut a slit all the way down one end. Because what's going to happen is your fingers are going to come through there later on, and you want to be able to come in and out. You're going to be pulling an envelope in and out of there. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself right now. We'll get back to that. Now, there are two parts to a headline prediction. There's the actual sealing of the prediction itself, and then there's the reveal. If you can't get to the location, let's say you're not going to be in town for 2 weeks, you can mail the prediction in. If you do that, the only thing that's going to happen is they get to sign the outside of the large envelope. I kind of like it when they can actually sign every single envelope and even sign the prediction itself. Yes, you can have them sign the prediction itself, which is really a great clincher at the end, and it's a really good convincer to them. If you want to do that, you show up, and I like to get the mayor, I like to get the chief of police, maybe some basketball star or famous sports personality or a TV star if they're in town, and I like to get them signed as well. But it's important that you make sure they can actually come to the reveal, whether you're opening the prediction at your show or whether you're opening prediction the day before your show, which is actually better because that will get you more coverage and more people after your show. If you want to get them to sign the prediction, what you have to do is this. You take, you get yourself a steno notepad. You take the first sheet and you just kind of turn it over like so. You just turn it over all the way like that. The next sheet, what you want to do is just draw yourself, and I'll just do this quickly. Normally I would take more time doing this, and I'm just going to put a few things on here. And you draw a few things on here like that. And again, this is just done very, very quickly, but I would be a little bit neater. I don't want to do too much, and I don't want it to be really be able to see, but what I want is something on this, that when I fold this up, you can see that there is indeed some sort of writing on there. I'm then going to fold it in half like this. Okay. And I'm going to fold it in half one more time like that. And then I'm going to tear it just halfway. I'm going to fold it over like this. Fold the original sheet back over. Take the original sheet. Fold it in half. You don't want to write anything on the original sheet. And fold it in half again. Tear this one so that it comes over right about to where the other one was. Give a little bit of a fold and open it back up. And you're all set. You close it, you take it to the ceiling. You need your one identical envelope, the one that doesn't have the magnet in it. That's going to go with you as well. You'll need to bring both FedEx envelopes with you that are gimmicked and set to go. You show up. You tell the person that you've made a prediction. This is your prediction right here, but you don't want to show it to them. But you ask them to sign it. And so they go ahead and they sign it. Then what you do is you turn it and you fold it in half like this. You turn it towards yourself. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull out the second piece of paper. They don't see this, but you're just pulling out the second piece of paper. That goes towards you. Put that on the table. This can just get put face down, or you can close it. That gets put face down. You pay no attention to it. This now goes into this envelope right here. You take this envelope. I'm not going to seal it right now, but you normally would peel it off. You go ahead and seal it. You can now have them, you don't have them sign this envelope, but you show them everything that's on it. They get to see it. This envelope, so the prediction has been signed. They've signed your prediction. It goes inside here, although they don't know that you switched it out. This envelope is going to go in here, but it's going to go all the way down into the bottom corner. All right? You want to stuff it down into this bottom corner as far down as you possibly can, so it's out of the way down here. You now seal this envelope, and if you're careful enough, they can sign this side. They can sign the back side. I would normally just have them sign the back side of the envelope. That way you don't accidentally expose that there's a gap right there. You can show this nonchalantly, but I wouldn't do too much. So you put it on the table. They get to sign this. It's sealed. This envelope right here, now will go inside the larger envelope. The larger envelope is then sealed. And again, I'm not going to seal it right now, just in case I've got to do something and show you again. And then they get to sign this envelope as many times as they want to. And you make sure that each important individual gets to do this, okay? They get to sign each one of these. And this gets put on display. I like to put it in a glass cabinet case or something with an explanation of exactly what it is and when it's going to be open, and it's put on display. You could lock it up in a safe somewhere in a bank. You could, there's multiple ways of doing of presenting this, and each one of these is covered in the PDF. So you can take a look in there, you see what's the best way, what's the biggest bang for the buck in the market that you're actually working in. And that's it. You just have to wait until the day of the headline. Now, what you've actually done, in essence, is you have stolen their signature. Put that in a safe place. You do not want to lose that. You don't want it to get wet. You don't want it to get messed up. So put it in a safe place. In fact, if you have a safe, stick it in that that's safe. The day of the show, when the actual newspaper comes out, all right, what you're going to do is you're going to take the newspaper and you're going to, I like to draw a mock-up of the newspaper. And again, if you look at the PDF, you'll see the type of mock-ups that I do. Of the actual paper itself, where it says USA Today, if I'm doing the USA, there'll be a little picture over here, and I'll draw a very basic design over here, and a few of the articles and that. And then I'll put like bits of the headlines. I might not go very 100% specific, but I get, like for instance, this one here says, Americans ask, where can I be safe? And I might just put on the very top as a headline, Americans, are they safe? So I change it just a little bit. And then down here, you can see that on the front page of the USA Today right here, there's 4 pictures in the very center. So what I would do is I would just draw a grid, and I might draw a very basic outline of somebody, or maybe just put the word net in this one over here, because it's the nets right there, and draw a bucket or something sort of cylinder over here. And then that way I can actually explain later on. I can say, look, there's that bucket. That's what that is. I couldn't quite tell what that is. Look, oh, it says net right there. And then over here, I might just draw a flag and maybe a person's head, and draw a map of the USA down here. So you've got all these interesting things, and it looks like the actual outline of the newspaper itself. There's a couple of little things that you now need to do. Once you've got the prediction in place, you fold it up, you put it in your gimmick envelope. Make sure you don't make any more smudges or anything. And this envelope, because it looks identical to your other envelope, should also be put in the safe and kept in a safe place so you don't accidentally mess it up in any way. So that is placed inside this envelope. This envelope gets sealed. Once again, I'm just not going to seal it right now, but normally you would seal it. And then you take your newspaper, and what you want to do is you don't want to go for the very top page, but you're going to stick this inside the newspaper. If you stick it in the top page, what's going to happen is when you put the other magnet on top of it, it's going to want to grab to that page really hard. So you've got to find out, and you're going to have to play with your own newspaper and the thickness of your papers. What I like to do is I like to put it down a little bit further, and you want to make sure that the polarity, that's why you need to remember the polarity. You want to make sure that it's up, place it inside the envelope, and you're set to go. All you got to do is bring this to the performance. That's all, the opening. This gets put down on the table at any point. The prediction comes out. You haven't verified all of the signatures. At some point, and what I've done right here is, because when I've got, I put a little dot right here, and this is exactly where the magnet is. Now, I don't know, I put it kind of exaggerated right there. But I do the same thing on the newspaper as well, and I've done a little exaggeration right there. I feel where the magnet is, and I draw a dot. And again, that's exaggerated. I don't need to know that much. But I just want to know sort of where that magnet is so that I can match these two up when I need to. What happens on the day is this comes down, and what you're going to do is you're going to feel it. You can actually feel it, and I don't know if you can hear this even here. You should be able to even hear it. I can hear it, but when I put this down, there you go. Nobody else is going to know what that is. Nobody else will know what that click is, but it's a satisfying click in my head because I know that those two magnets are attracted to each other. I can have them verify their signatures. You know, they can look at the envelope, I put it down, have them verify their signatures. I put this down, and then what I'm just doing, I'm just going to pull the newspaper and give it to somebody. And what that has now done is that has pulled the prediction out, and it's sticking behind here. This is down on the table, so nobody can see it. Or I can even have it and just hold it like this. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll fill behind just to make sure the envelope is indeed lined up properly, but it's sitting right down like that. You now open the front envelope. This is given to somebody else to hold. You ask them to hold it, and they hold it with the headlines facing outwards. Now what you do is you take this second envelope and you pull it out. And I'm going to do it for your view, all right? So what happens is it's just going to drag that envelope right ahead along like that, all right? It's going to be right there like that. Now you notice that that's a little bit crooked. Normally that would happen down on the table or against my body this way, so nobody can see that. My hand comes under here, and I can actually feel that envelope, and I can push it into place. So at this point now, they can take a look at all of their signatures. It's one of the reasons I don't like having them sign the back of the envelope, because I really don't want to have to hold that in place. And at this point, you can't, because you have the envelope on it. So at this point now, what I like to do is what's going to happen is this, is your fingers are going to come through it like this. I usually do it down on a table. Now, the other important thing about using a table is if you're going to use a table, you may want to bring your own table or check it ahead of time, because if there's a metal rod or something in the table, that could very well mess you up. So you can also lift it up off the table so you're not really having that type of a problem, but I always check the table, make sure there's no metal in that table itself. Don't want the magnet sticking to it. What I like to do now is, and you can even hold it against your body like this. Nobody can see anything. But I like to turn this envelope once my hand's in there, like that. It makes it a little bit easier for me to grasp. And what's going to happen is that you want to make sure that this end isn't up. You don't want them seeing that. So that end has to be down just slightly like that. And then, or towards your body like that, or down like this. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to take this envelope and you're just going to pull it all the way out. Now, there's no signatures on this envelope, but there is your signature or your initials, or you've put the initial of the mayor or something like that. Because what I like to do is I like to put the initials of the person that's going to be opening it, because then I can say, are those your initials? Even though they didn't write it, I can still say, are those your initials? It sort of gives the impression to any newspaper reporter, but anybody else, that they also signed this envelope as well. I give the envelope to them, and you don't have to worry that they're going to feel the magnet in there. They don't know what that is. They have no clue. They open it up. They take the prediction. You're nowhere near the prediction now. You're far away. They're holding this whole thing. You say, open the prediction just slightly and tell me, is that your signature on my prediction? They say yes, so they're looking at your signature. Now, they open it up, and you're ready to go. I mean, all the dirty work has been done. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll switch this, I'll make a third envelope and I'll switch this one out, or I'll reach inside here and just pull the magnet out, and I can just leave everything on the table except for this envelope because it's gimmicked right there. So that's called the magnificent headline prediction. It's really easy to do. It's extremely, extremely convincing. And once again, if you have any questions about it, take a look at the PDF, all right? Because the PDF will explain every single detail. I'm giving you just the basic overall so that you can actually pick from these headline predictions which one it is that you want to use. Next, I'm going to show you an even simpler headline prediction. All right, so I call this one the Banachek 1 through 5 headline prediction. This is such an easy thing to do. It really takes no preparation. Let's say you're on the road, you can't get any magnets, you don't have time to make the setup. This one's even easier. And the great thing about this one is it gives you multiple predictions. In fact, I call it 1 through 5 because you actually get 5 predictions. There is one little thing that you're going to have to do, all right? One little thing that you have to do. The day of you actually making the headline prediction, you're going to want to go out and get yourself a newspaper, all right? So let's say, for instance, we got the 27th and 28th here. Normally, I'd want to do it with weeks in advance or a week in advance, and I'd get the early newspaper. So I take the early newspaper, and the only thing that I'm going to do from that is I am going to go ahead and remove one of the pages, just one of the pages, all right? This actually gives me 4 pages right there. I don't even need all 4 of those. I can just tear one of those in half. If you want to take the whole section, you can. And I'm going to take that section, and we're going to get back to that shortly. The rest of the paper, you can just throw it away. You're not going to need it. So you take your very first envelope, and what you're going to do in this first envelope is you're going to just make a silly prediction, all right? You can even actually make a real prediction if you want to about something that's going to happen in the year 2040 or something like that, or the year 3000 or something like that. It becomes sort of a gag, a joke. Nobody's going to be alive to see it. I predict right here, I predict that on November the 30th, 2018, Donald Trump will get a haircut. It's a silly little prediction, but it's going to be your first prediction. It makes no sense, but it gets that laugh in the beginning. So that goes in the very first envelope. All right. Now, in your second envelope, you're going to start to get a little more serious. What you're going to do is the page that you took out from an old newspaper, you're going to take a look at that page right there. And on page 4 right here, there's a picture of a woman. This just happened. I actually made this prediction before I even looked at this paper. But this prediction, it says on page 4, there'll be a picture of a woman, and it says she's holding a brass statue. Well, she's not actually holding a brass statue, but I could have said there's a picture of a woman standing up by a microphone right there. And then that gets kept. You keep this piece right here. You just keep it, okay, because you're going to keep it until the day of the show. But this gets put, this prediction right here gets put into the second envelope. And that gets sealed. So now you've got 2 predictions, silly prediction and an actual prediction of something that's already happened that came out in a newspaper. But don't worry, they're not going to know that. In your third one, says on page 3, there'll be the number 6,800. And what that is basically, I've looked over here on this page, and I see that on page 3, the opposite page from page 4, the number 6,800 is on there. It could be anything. I could actually put on page 3, the word China will be on there, or the word missile will be in the second column, or the first word on page 3 will be the word president. Anything that's on the other opposite page from the other page, you put that on your third prediction. And that goes inside this envelope right here. Okay, number 3. Now, so you got 1, 2, 3 predictions so far. All right, and don't worry, don't get ahead of me yet. Number 4, I do nothing with. I'm going to keep number 4 because on number 4, the actual day of the headline, I'm going to draw up and mark up my headline. All right, but this has to get switched in. Remember, you've always got to switch your prediction in or switch them out. There's no switching out here. You're going to do an add-on is what's going to happen. But I'll get it. I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, this just gets put to the side. You keep this, and again, just keep it in a safe place. You can always make that the day of the show if you want to. I like all my papers to look the same, so I'll tear a piece out of the same sheet so they end up looking the same. In number 5, you can do multiple things. You could do hurling the headlines by bowling hole, and that is just where you make a whole bunch of headlines. Of what you do is you go get like a farmer's almanac. Jack Dean had this idea. You get a farmer's almanac, and it will have a list of when most plane crashes happen, what month it happens in, earthquakes when they happen, what type of weather, and you can just do a whole bunch of those. You say, November, there's going to be a tornado in Kansas. In June, there's going to be a plane crash, and I see there's going to be red on the plane, and you can just do a whole bunch of those. I like to do something that I'm actually going to do in the show. So I'll write a time on this one right there. And make note of that time. Make sure you know what it is. Best if you actually use a time that belongs to you, like your time of birth or something like that, so you don't forget what you have on this, because it may be a couple of weeks before you see this again. That also gets put in the pile. So what we've got is 1, 2, 3, and 5. These get sealed inside a FedEx envelope or any envelope you want. You seal that inside there. They can sign this. They can do whatever they want with it. They can mark it any way that they want to. This gets put on display. You never see this again. You never have to touch this again until the actual day of the show itself. Day of the show, you get a newspaper. Remember that sheet earlier that you made a couple of predictions on? Well, you remove those pages from that day's newspaper, and you insert the pages from the other newspaper. And it goes inside like that. Nobody's going to be any of the wiser because all the rest of the pages are going to look the same. The front's going to look the same. Now, the day of your show, again, this is that day's newspaper. Okay. You do your markup of the front page. You do your markup. You draw all the items on there, you put them all on there, and you do your markup, and then you fold it up, you seal it inside that number 4 envelope. That number 4 envelope gets placed in the folded newspaper. That's all you need. Now you're ready to go. The day of the show itself, you reach inside here like this, and you lay the newspaper out on the table. What you've done is you have the number 4 envelope, it actually should be the other way. You have the number, I'll turn it so you can see it. The number 4 envelope is right there. So again, this is placed inside your paper. You put it down, it's just sitting right there. The day of the show, they bring this, they all verify all their signatures. You tear it open very openly. You show that there's a bunch of envelopes inside. They can't really see how many. You take these envelopes and you just kind of mess them up a little bit and you just lay them on top of the newspapers like so. And you say, and this is today's newspaper. And I want you to take that. And what I've done in essence is I have now added number 4 envelope to the pile like that. They open this first envelope, and it's a gag joke, Trump getting a haircut. And you say, no, it's going to happen. You don't believe me? Watch this. And you say, you have the newspaper right there. Could you do me a favor? Would you just turn to page number 4? And you don't even have to touch these. Somebody else is actually opening these. So you're not opening these at all. Somebody else is opening them. They open it up, and it says, on page 4, there'll be a picture of a woman holding a brass statue or speaking into a microphone. So they turn to page 4, and they see the woman right there. And you say, go ahead and close the newspaper. They open up the second one, and that's your second prediction for to the opposite page of page 4, page 3 was in there. On page 3, the number 6,800. They turn to page 3, they see 6,800. Nobody realizes this is from an actual newspaper ahead of time. And these are such small predictions. It's why you want to make them so minute, so that if a newspaper reporter actually does write about that, he's not going to write about those predictions. He's going to be writing about the big one, because you build this one up. You say, now, this is the real big one. I want you to take a look at the front. And what you do is you take your own marker or pen or whatever it is, and every single thing that you point out, you actually circle it on the newspaper so it stands out, because that's the picture that you want in the paper. You don't want to talk about those other things. So they open number 4, and number 4 will be an exact duplicate of the headlines, and you're marking every single down. You just come over here and you say, oh, look, Congress, and something about a shutdown at the very top. Look, well, there's Congress and a shutdown. Something about wrestling, a woman flying. It looks like a picture of a woman in the air above somebody else. And what you do is you end up going to her and you circle that. There's a woman flying there. Maybe you had somebody with, like a coach with the little lines coming down or something like that. And then there's something about a terrorist and a killing down at the bottom, and you circled that as well. So that's your headline prediction. That's the main one. And then finally, this last one. Like I said, it could be just the hurling the headlines. What I like to do is Bev Bergeron's Predicting Time. Now, Bev gave me permission years ago to publish Predicting Time, so I have no problem showing it here. Plus, a lot of people have shown Predicting Time without giving credit. Before I even open up this envelope, what I'll do is I'll take my watch and I'll pull the stem out and I say, look, if I turn the stem like that, you can actually see, and let's keep in mind that number 5 is, the time is going to be 7:35. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a force of the time. So 7:35. All right. They change watch. I show that the stem keeps moving. And as I get right about maybe 6 or something like that, I can say, even if I turn it down, you can actually see that it still keeps turning, right? And then what I do is I turn it towards myself and I get to 7:35. And then what I do, this one actually has a date on it. It's a very small date, is I push it into the date. And then I hand it to somebody else. I say, I want you to keep turning the stem. And they just keep turning the stem. They think they're changing the time, but they're not. It stays on 7:35 because what they're doing is they're changing the date. You will find some watches that even when you push a stem in all the way, it still turns and it feels like it's turning. But there won't be that satisfying click when you tell them to lock it in. So you'll have to walk over and push it in. But I tell them, just keep turning it, keep turning it. Do not turn the watch over. In fact, keep it face down on your hand and just keep turning it the whole time. You can turn it forward, you can turn it backwards. Don't stop. You just keep doing that while we continue. You go ahead, you get through all your predictions, and then you say, stop. Push the stem in. And now you open this last one. It shows that it's 7:35. And you say, take a look and tell me what time the watch says. And they're going to say 7:35 because you've set it to that point. Now, the interesting thing is, if the watch battery is working, you're going to have to sort of time out how long this is going to take you because the watch will keep moving. But you can also use a borrowed watch, and I like to do that. The other thing is if you're using your own watch, just take the battery out. That way the hands won't keep moving while you're performing this. Does that make sense? I'm sure it does. So, again, that's Predicting Time by Bev Bergeron. But you don't have to do that for the last one. You can just hurl some headlines as if you know what's going to happen in the future because you've already convinced them that you can predict the headlines of a newspaper. So that's Banachek's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 headline prediction. And again, if you have any questions, take a look at the PDF. So let me add one more thing about the insert of the newspaper. You might be a little bit concerned that people might notice the headline. So if you're worried about that at all, and I got to be honest, I'm very careful about it when I perform it. I was a little bit nonchalant in the explanation. But a lot of times I would just have them say, turn to page 3 and tell me, is there a picture of a woman on that page? Yes. Good. Close the paper. And I get them to close it right away. You'll want to choose something like, if you're using the Wall Street Journal or any of those other type newspapers, try to pick a page, not like, doesn't have to be 2 or 3, a page further down in the newspaper, and something that doesn't have any really big headlines that stick out or very important stories. And quite often, both of those predictions will just be words for me. I'll say, yeah, 3rd line down, we'll start with the word missile. And then the next one builds a little bit. 2nd column, 4th line down, 2nd word in, will be the word president. So it's just these very specific predictions, but about small things, because you really want the emphasis to be on the headline when you're done. I'm one of those guys that I never said no to anything when I was younger. I would just, people say, can you do this? And I would just simply do it. In fact, my very first headline prediction, I was asked by a newspaper reporter, hey, could you predict the headlines of a newspaper? I said, yeah, sure, yeah. And I gave him a file cabinet and I taped it all up. I mean, a little file box, and I gave it to him and I taped it all up. And then after I gave it to him, I was like, how the heck am I going to do this? I had absolutely no clue. And so I got a duplicate file cabinet and a little file box. I call it file cabinet, but that's kind of what you want to call it. You want to call it a lock box or a file cabinet. It makes it sound really like secure, even though it's not. And the day of the show in Steubenville, I showed up and I was able to do it. And what happened was I had this little file box that was a duplicate, and I played around with it, and I realized there was a gap in the very back of the file box. So when I got the box from him, I said, this has been in your control the entire time, right? Nobody's touched it, nobody's opened it. And I was just sliding the paper up and through the edge of it in the very back. And I got full page coverage from that. And it was just like doing it on the fly. So a lot of times people will ask me, hey, can you do a publicity stunt? I'll get a call from an agent or something like that. And I don't have anything with me. And so, you know, that was, I just think up a way to do this. And this one I call the Banachek M&M prediction. And it's based upon a Larry Becker thing. Larry Becker had this wonderful thing, and originally he used, there used to be these little film canisters. And I was at the grocery store, and it was right after I'd been asked if I could do a prediction, and I found these. And what it is, it's an M&M canister. It usually comes full of M&Ms. You can see the M on the very front. I like to change that into a B so it looks like Banachek when I can. But, so I bought myself a few of these, played around with it, and what you do is you basically take a label, again you put it on there when you're going to seal it, and you put when it's going to be opened. You take your two predictions and you put them inside there. I like to take one and fold it so it actually looks like two, takes up less room, and I put it inside here because they're never going to see this one. That gets put inside, and close it, seal it shut. Now, what's great about this is it's really kind of a cool looking thing. You can put your own logo on the front or on the top if you want to. And this can actually be put inside of a beautiful little case with black foam, and it fits right inside there. And it's a display case with a glass front, and that can be put on display. It's so easy to do. There's not a whole lot to it. You basically need a fingertip. That's all you need. I use a very large thumb tip as a fingertip. And the day of the performance, that comes out. You open it up. They can see everything inside. And what you do is you just reach inside. And as you reach inside, you give a little squeeze. That'll hold the thumb tip or fingertip in place. And then you pull it out like that. And you go back in. You can get the other one out like that. Nothing to see at all. This gets closed, put off to the side. You don't touch the billets anymore. They open it up, and it's got two predictions on it. Headline prediction and whatever other prediction you want. If you want to do a different page in the newspaper or anything. Again, very, very simple, very, very easy to do, and very, very deceptive. One of the other things you could do as well is you could actually have them sign your prediction, and it could go inside, and you can remove the fingertip and the whole thing comes out, and you've got one piece that's still inside there, so you've stolen the signed billet as well. And then you close that, and you can have them sign the outside of this as well, and in the misdirection you ditch the fingertip. So now what you've got is the signed billet. You save that till the day that you want to make your prediction. This paper is going to be a little bit smaller, but it's okay because it's in a small tube, so it sort of kind of makes sense, right? So that is the Banachek M&M headline prediction. What's great about this, you could have multiple of these in your pockets if you wanted to, or multiple different thumb tips for outs, and this could be sitting on the table the entire time, and all you got to do is get the right thumb tip, and at the end of the show you pull it out and you got the right prediction if you have an index. So again, a very simple device, and quite a lot of these headline predictions, these switching things, can be used for multiple different predictions. Let's say you had an envelope that was sitting on stage during your show the entire time. You have somebody backstage and they're doing all the dirty work. They're putting that extra envelope inside of a steno notepad, or they're putting it under a sheet of paper or inside of a book that's going to be put on stage later on. So your magnet picks it up out of there. So you could do a whole bunch of predictions about things that happen in the show. That envelope could be sitting in the audience. So keep in mind that headline predictions aren't just for headlines. You can use them. They have multiple different types of uses, like the Banachek M&M prediction. So now we come to the very last of my headline predictions here. And again, I've got thousands of these, but I think the ones that I'm showing you here are probably the best, and some of them are the simplest. I'm going to teach you a utility device, how to make a utility device right now. And I've used this for headline predictions. This utility device allows you to show small little predictions, little rolls of paper. Now, a lot of people are afraid of those little tiny predictions like that. They go, why would I use a prediction chest with a key that might shoot a very small prediction into a chest? Well, that doesn't make sense, does it? Because you got a big old chest and this little itsy-bitsy rolled up prediction. So magicians stay away from that, and mentalists stay away from it. There's no reason to do that, though. You just have to put things in a context. I mean, if I was going to have a small prediction, I'd make sure that it was in a small envelope. That small envelope is then sealed. It goes into another envelope, and then that goes into another envelope, and so on, so that when you do pull out your prediction, it's going to be in a small envelope. This is the final one, and with this utility device, they can actually sign every single envelope. So I used this way back in my early days. Like I said, I tried everything, and I made this. And then years later, Martini came out with a billet pen, and it was a little bit different than my billet pen. I was going to market mine, but White Rennie came out with his. I thought, nah, it's kind of similar but different. But Martini doesn't make them anymore, as far as I know, and I haven't seen them out there. And mine is different enough that I thought I would show you how to make this, all right? So I'm just going to show you what it is, and I've made this one a little bit different than I normally make it, just because I want you to see a few things. So first thing you do is you want to get yourself a big pen, or any pen that's a barrel pen. Then what you want to do is you want to take the cap and you want to cut, and I don't know if you can see that, but you want to cut up the head off, all right? So you put that over to the side right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your pen and you're going to pull out the nib right there, and you're going to cut down the ink cartridge, so it's very, very short. That gives you a little bit of time that you can actually write with this pen as well. But you cut it so it's short, and if you can see that screw right there, this one is cut inside there, right about where that screw is right there, all right? Now, that screw is there for a reason, because what I've done is I've cut a slot in there, so now I have a piece that slides, going back and forth like that. All right, can you see that? It just slides back and forth like that. There's a little dowel rod inside there, so that dowel rod acts as a plunger. When I push up, that pushes up. When I push down, it pushes down like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of paper, and I take it from a 3x5 notepad, and that gets rolled up so that it fits in here, and it should fit fairly loosely. You may have to trim the paper slightly. Then what I do is I take my cap, I put it on top just like that, and I will cut off with a pair of scissors. Usually it sticks out just a little bit. I'm going to cut off any excess that might be there. It just gets cut off from the very end, so it lays flush with the cap. Then what I do is I take a marker, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mark the very edge of that slip of paper, that piece of paper. All right. And let's take that out. The other thing I do is the end of the plunger. I also mark the end of the plunger like that. All right. Now you can actually see probably the length of the dowel rod that goes across from here to there. I normally would not use a screw. I'll use a little pin which lays lower and a lot more flush. It's a little more deceptive, but I've done this so you can see exactly where the point is that screw goes in there. Best way, if you are going to use a screw, is to drill a hole ahead of time, because you don't want to expand the dowel rod inside there. If you're using a pin, you may want to also do the same thing, but use a very, very, very tiny drill bit, drill a little bit of hole, then push the pin in. I just like to push the pin in, and I get it all the way down flush so that it moves freely, but it's not sticking up too far. So again, now this billet gets put inside here. It is going to stick out at the very end. You're going to see that it actually sticks out. Make sure that it moves up and down very smoothly. All right. Now you take the cap off, and you just put the cap back on the proper end where it goes. The billet will be inside here like this. This will sit in your pocket until you're ready for it, and you're ready to go. When you're ready to do it, you pull it out and you cover the end that has the billet inside it. Okay, you cover that as you pull it out. You take the cap off, and what you do is you place the billet inside of the cap. They don't see this. This happens in behind your head. And what you do is you just put the cap on. Now there's nothing to see. All right. They could look at that end. There's nothing to see. It's completely dark right there. You're just ready. You're ready to go. When you've got the envelope open, this comes behind it. The cap end at some point, you get everything in a position right here. The cap end just barely touches the envelope. And what you're going to do is you're just going to push that plunger down, and it's going to eject a piece of paper, and it'll eject it all the way, and then it's inside there like that. And it doesn't look like you did anything because there's a cap, and logically people always think the cap is completely solid, all right? And when you're done with it, you've also now, it is solid because you got the end of the plunger right there, and that's blackened as well. Now what you can do is you can just take this, pour out the prediction. You don't have to touch it. They open it up. It's a great little utility device. I'm probably going to make these for penguins, so keep an eye out, and you can actually purchase one of these if you don't want to make it yourself, but feel free to go ahead and try to make them yourself, but I'll be making them, and there'll be plenty of quality control on them. It's a great utility device. It's great for headline predictions. It's also great for any other type of prediction that you want to do. If you have multiple pens sticking in your pocket, you can just pull out the right pen. You can open it up, and it can be 1 out of 5, or depending how many pens you have in your pocket, you could have 10 pens and just pull the right one out. You're ready to go. You open the prediction, you show that it's already there. So there you go. It's Banachek billet pen. So the B&B. So for clarification purposes, this is how you make the tip pen. You take the cap, you cut the end off. Make sure there's no end, no brushes, no areas right there. You don't want anything to get caught on it. You take the pen itself and you cut the nib down so you have a little bit of ink inside there. This gets inserted back into the barrel in just a second. You're going to want to cut a hole from about this area down here going all the way up to about that area right there. You want to get yourself a, you can see the size of this, a dowel rod, and the dowel rod should fit directly inside. You drill a little hole in the area right there if you're going to use a screw. I like to use a pin, so I don't need to do that. This gets put inside of the barrel. I'm going to screw the screw back in there. I'll try to do it by hand without a screwdriver. And there we go. Good. Make sure that's going up and down. Excellent. This gets put back inside here, like so. All right. Pull that all the way down. Now what you're going to do is take yourself a sheet of 3x5 paper, fold it in half, fold it in quarters, and then you just simply roll it. And you're going to want to roll it tight. I'm sure a few of you are used to rolling papers. I'm not. There we go. This gets put in. You can trim the paper if it's too thick or too big. You can certainly do that. Now what you do is you put the cap on. The cap goes all the way down. If the paper sticks out slightly, you take a pair of scissors, cut the edge off like so. Take a marker, blacken the edge of the billet. And you're going to have to do this with the billet every time you use a billet. You just blacken the edge of it. There we go. All right, take that out. Take your marker, blacken the edge of the dowel rod. The day of your prediction, you make your prediction on this piece of paper. It gets placed inside. And again, I might want to trim that paper to make it just a little bit thinner even. But for your purposes, I'm going to leave it the way it is. Good, it matches up. The cap gets put on the other end of the pen. This sits in your pocket with your prediction already, just waiting for you to pull it out. When you pull it out, it comes out of your pocket like that, and what you're doing is you're hiding that end right there. Cap comes off behind your hand right here, facing this way. You put it on, and again, you're going to always want to keep this area right here away from the audience. You can actually paint the dowel rod if you want to white. Just make sure you don't put too many coats on because you want it to slide freely, and that will hide it even further. And then when you're ready, you get to open up the envelope. The envelope is open, and as you talk, you get it into place like this as you speak, and the edge just barely touches like that. And what you're going to do is, it's hard to do it backwards for me, but this is going to come down and it's going to eject the billet right there like that. It's just going to eject the billet inside there like that. And it usually happens in a much quicker, smoother move. It's just hard for me to do it facing this way. It'll happen in the back, and you're ready to go. and then you talk a little bit more. Your hands are very, very open, free, and then there you go. So again, the Banachek bullet pen. So that's the headline predictions. I mean, you've just got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of promotion. You can't buy this kind of publicity. And you've just got it as a download at Penguin Magic. And if you've enjoyed this, leave a review at penguinmagic.com. Thanks, and I'll see you on my other downloads.